Hey, it's me, Alex Music, and welcome to my Religious Life video blog. It's gonna be the 16th Sunday after Pentecost Day, and I'm gonna take sides, for 10 minutes. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't take that long, whatever it is. It's gonna be Matthew chapter 20, verses 1 through 16. It goes like this: For the kingdom of heaven is like a landowner who went out early in the morning to hire laborers for his vineyard. After, you guessed it, after agreeing with the laborers for the usual daily wage, he sent them into his vineyard. When he went out about 9 o'clock, he saw others standing idle in the marketplace, and said to them, "You also go into the vineyard, and I will pay you whatever is right." So they went, and when he went out again about noon, about 3 o'clock, he did the same thing. See, this is why it does the same thing over and over again. So, well, about the same thing. About 5 o'clock, he went out and found others standing around. And he said to them, "Why are you standing here idle all day?" They said to him, "Because no one has hired us. He said to them, "You also go into the vineyard." When evening came, the owner of the vineyard said to his manager, "Call the laborers and give them their pay, beginning with the last and then going to the first." Now when those hired about 5 o'clock came, each of them received the usual daily wage. Now when the first came, and they thought they were receiving more, but each of them also received the usual daily wage. And when they received it, they grumbled against the landowners, saying, "These last worked only 1 hour, and you have made them equal to us, who have borne the burden of the day and the scorching heat." But he replied to them, "Friend, I am doing you no wrong. Did you not agree with me for the usual daily wage? Take what belongs to you and go. I choose to give to this last, the same as I give to you. Am I not allowed to do what I choose with what belongs to me? Or you are envious because I am generous. So the last will be first, and the first will be last." So this is what happens. The parable of this gospel thing, according to Matthew chapter 20. And that's why the owner of this vineyard hires day laborers at various times throughout the day, and the ones who hired at 6 o'clock in the morning, oh my God, they'll keep you up awake. You should get some sleep and, well, whatever. Well, who knows? Put a full day's work. And that's why they hired 5 o'clock. Put only one hour of work. But the owner pays everyone's full day wage, a denarius. And he goes out of his own way to make sure that everyone knows that all are paid the same in spite of the different number of hours worked. Not surprisingly, because those hired first complained, and that they worked long but earned no more money than those who start late in the day. And what about the owner? Yeah, it replies this: friend, I am doing you no wrong. And that's why, that's because everybody knows, so the last will be first, and the first will be last. You see, because next month, Renata's going to be her last day of work. And I'm going to be taking over as cashier at the inside Patriot Cafe at VA Hospital. And that's why my dad wants to teach me how to count money. Imagine you're the customer and I'm the cashier. And that's how we're practicing on it. What about Tom? That's why he's going to fill in that job position spot. So we'll just see how it goes. So find out what it is. But back to Matthew chapter 20's gospel. Because the parable of the sower, that's why Jesus does not give us an explicit interpretation. Take, for instance, as a result, scholars have been offered many interpretations. And why? Because the people in this story are laborers and managers. Because some assumed it is about work. But in that case, it seemed to say, don't compare this to your others to pay, or should we say this? Don't be dissatisfied if others get paid more or work less than you do in a similar job. It could be argued that some of these good practices for workers, but if you earn a minimum wage or decent wage about this one, why making yourself miserable? And why? Because others have it even better. But this interpretation of this parable can be also justly unfair or abuse labor practices, and so the workers were, you guess, to receive lower wage for unfair reasons, like such as race or sex or immigrant status, just like immigrants or immigration or whatever happens in this whole USA type of thing. And I don't care if your race or sex or whatever happens, and that's why does Jesus means that we should be content when we or other workers treated unfairly? Because it happens that paying people the same regardless of how much work they do, a questionable business practice. And wouldn't it give a strong incentive to all those workers who showed up at 5 o'clock in the afternoon? What about the next day and the day after, or whatever it is next, and whatever it is? Guess what? Guess what? It happens. It could be an identical wage or whatever happens. But it seems calculated to cause a labor strife. And then perhaps in this parable doesn't really work at all. Let me make this long story short. Could be because this is going to be unfair. Because Jesus' story makes a little economic sense, which was his point. Exactly, he was given to the parable about grace, and you can't calculate the grace of God like you can a day's wages. That's why we receive this as a gift from God, not as something we work hard to earn. And the person who comes to God at the end of this life, and just like the robber on the cross, enjoys the same ultimately benefits as someone who follows God, from earlier childhood. And that's why jealousy of another unfair reward can rob us of the joy of our own. And the moral of this, my religious life video blog story, is if the vineyard represents God in this powerful message, that in this kingdom, that's right, God's kingdom, try to displace unemployed workers, find work, and that meets their needs and the needs of those who depend on them. And that is why, quote this, we have already seen Jesus saying, quote, from Matthew chapter 10, verse 10 says, laborers deserve their food. And that's why this doesn't necessarily mean that earthly employees have been full responsible for meeting and all the needs of their employees. And what about earthly employees, not God? Rather, this parable could be a huge message of hope to everyone struggling to find adequate employment. And in God's kingdom, we will all find work that meets our needs. And it also challenges to those who have hand a shape of this structure of work in today's society. I bet. And one more thing. Can Christians do anything to advance this expect God's kingdom right now? You find out sooner or later of this 16th Sunday after Pentecost Day. And that's my religious life video blog story, and I'm sticking to it.